This is the 8th tutorial in the series, celebrating the anniversary of Paco de Lucia's passing. And this piece is called Chiquito. It's a dedication Paco made to Chicoria. He had worked with Chicoria before this, but he was in the habit of calling these guys by their name in Spanish as like a kind of a friendly way to talk to them. He called John Mclaughlin Juanito. So Chiquito is dedicated to Chicoria, and this piece of music is made of really three parts. There's the introduction, which is based on the Anda composition by Garcia Lorca that Paco has reharmonized with some jazzy chords and arpeggio. Traditionally, that piece is interpreted by flamenco musicians. It's really a classical interpretation of folk music that Garcia Lorca wrote and recorded, and he played the piano. But flamenco artists typically they get inspired by Garcia Lorca a lot, by his words and poetry and his plays that he wrote. But they like to interpret the music that he composed with a more flamenco flavor. So typically they do Anda with the Bulería compás. And Paco himself arranged this as a duet with Ricardo Mondrego when he was a teenager using Bulería's compás. So you might want to check out that version too, Anda. So the introduction is Anda like an upgraded version that Paco invented the harmony for. And then the second part of this tune is basically just a falseta that they repeat as a sort of refrain. And this falseta is a little more like Soleá in terms of the tonality. It's in the key of E Phrygian mostly, but it's very exotic sounding. But he would play this falseta also for the dancer in his show with his group, with the sextet, and they would use it as a falseta in the Alegría stance. So the compás is the same as Alegría. So you can either think of it as Alegría, falseta, or a Soleá per Bulería type thing. And then the next part is really the fusion part that Paco introduced, which is the idea of improvising over this compás of Soleá. And this was a pretty unique idea at the time. Maybe Miles Davis tried to do a little bit of Soleá back on Sketches of Spain, but this is a more proper way to try to do this fusion concept of improvising and introducing flamenco elements. So this is kind of a unique piece in that sense with the guitar trio. This was recorded on Passion, Grace, and Fire, their second album, and Paco overdubbed a lot of his guitar parts because I think he probably didn't have the time to teach them how to properly play the compás. And so we'll talk about this section, the improv section, later in the video. So for now, let's get started with the intro, and I'm going to talk a little bit in Spanish, as I did in my previous video, so people that speak Spanish can understand a little bit better what's going on here. So, esta canción de Paco de Lucía se llama Chiquito, dedicada a Chicorea, su amigo, y consiste de tres partes. La primera parte es Andajaleo de García Lorca, pero muy moderno, con nuevos acordes y concepto de jazz. Segunda parte, solamente un falseta, pero es un estribillo para la canción. Después las improvisaciones de otros guitarristas. Falseta, este falseta es un poquito más que una cosa de Soleá por Bulería, en tono de mi, tono de Soleá, o alegrías, porque Paco, usando ese falseta con el baile de Joaquín Grillo en los conciertos con su sextet, alegría tiene la misma compás de Soleá por Bulería. Es un potpourri de una mezcla de tonos. No es tradicional forma de cante o algo. Es una fusión de ideas. Y tercera parte es una rueda de tonos para improvisar en tono de mi mayor como alegría, y también una mezcla de tono de soleá por arriba, y también tonos de minera. Minera es una cante de la mina y tono de sol sostenido. Okay, so we're going to start with the introduction, and it's basically the melody of Anda Jaleo, but it's done free, and he's introducing this kind of new chords to it. So just to get an idea of what's Anda Jaleo, the melody like in C sharp that Paco's using, the sung melody anyway has a melody like and then the refrain is Anda Jaleo, Anda Jaleo, Jaleo. Okay, so this melody Paco's interpreting with new harmonies, right? Okay, so that's the basis of the introductory melody. So he starts with the C sharp minor chord. So do sostenido menor, do siete. So use this finger for the trill. This is doing the melody on top. So that's G sharp and A. Solo sostenido y la, una melodía. Okay, so the second chord is an F sharp dominant 7. This is Fa sostenido 7, pero con esa nota muy jazzy. It's the sharp 5, okay? And the melody's up top here. So like this is like a 13 chord with a sharp 5. Very jazzy. And the third chord is B major 7, okay? So what he's doing, jazz concept here, is 2, 5, 1 in B major, and then it goes right away to this chord, which is E major, but with a sharp 5 again. Okay, so another jazzy chord. But the melody is up top, and that's the original melody of Garcia Lorca. But again, this tono here, or you can play this note open like this. Okay, again, the tonos do sostenido menor, fa sostenido, si y mi con the fifth note. Right? So the fingering Paco's using here is pretty clear, I think. Simple kind of. I think he uses these fingers in the video, so he likes to use these fingers. And that leaves you free to do the next part, which is to slide up here from F sharp to G sharp. And the fourth chord here is, or the fifth chord, fifth chord is A major 7. This is A major 7, but with the, you can put the ninth in there, right? This is a major 9. Okay, La. Major 9. Okay, and then he continues the melody on the B string from the 4th fret. Now I'm putting a bar here, so this is like an E chord, but we have major 7, so this is Mi, major 7, but he's using the sharp 5 again, okay, because that's in the melody. So it's a different way to harmonize that same part of the Garcia Lorca melody, okay? And you keep this finger here for the first chord, and then this is under the bar, right? Second string. Now we're still on the second string with the melody, so we're doing it with these chords. Okay, that's Fa sostenido menor and Solo sostenido menor. Okay, and the last chord here. This is a tricky chord to grab. If you want, you can try to do it first, getting the bass note down, and that might help you. Give you a second to get the other fingers, and you can play the chord from the trebles to the basses. Okay. All right, and then let me just play that whole thing so you get the kind of the flavor of it in compás. It's not really in compás, but you can take your time. Libre. Ending. Okay, this is Fa sostenido menor, and the melody's again on the second string. Now here's the weird chord. Okay, this is like just harmonizing this. So he's sustaining that part of the melody and not resolving it. And this chord is very kind of like a made-up thing. It looks like an A minor chord, but La menor. Pero we have this note here, the flat 5, or you could think of it as a sharp 4. What is Re sostenido. That gives the tension that we need to release, and he releases it to G sharp. And this is your minera sound, right? This technique here is just the IA. And originally, in the original version, Paco just plays this and lets the other guitar players use the púa, and they'll play like a melody up here that's like the andajaleo. Andajaleo or harmony. Right? And I think the live versions with Mclaughlin, he does sometimes that kind of thing. Alright, so that's all it is. What I was doing in the video is just doing that same melody, but by moving this chord around. And I've got this one here just in case, because you don't want to get that open string sound, right? So just try your best to target on the bass notes only. Esta técnica solamente en los bajos. Okay, and then after this we introduce the arpeggios, okay, and that's where the compás kicks in, and he's doing the compás again, solea por bulería. Normalmente andajaleo es muy rápido en bulería, but here he's slowing it way down for the sake of the whole piece. And I'm going to show these chords first, just like his block chords for the left hand, because it's pretty tricky for the left hand, and then we'll do the arpeggio. So it's basically AMI arpeggio with the basses involved, right? So the first chord is C minor, C sharp minor, solo sostenido menor, aquí. So this is a cejilla al 6, okay, 6th position, and you got to reach here 2 frets between these guys, okay? So that's tricky. Okay, so I'll just play them in block chords. So what we're gonna do is hold this chord, and then you're gonna move these 2 fingers, 2 and 3. We're gonna just move them chromatic, okay, while holding these 2 as the outside part, right? So now when I do it and I spread, I almost have to reset this finger because it wants to move. If you can hold it down, good for you. Okay, so that's how you want to get this last chord. Okay, so that's C natural, B natural, right? So after you get to this part of the chord, you're gonna change the pinky from here to there. Okay, so okay, and you're gonna play this little kind of galloping melody. Okay, so the melody's doing this. On the 2nd string. So keep that in mind when you're playing this, because you want that to come out. Okay. La melodía es en la segunda cuerda. La melodía de García Lorca. Okay. That's under the bar. Now we change position to 4th position, al 4. Ese acorde es fa sostenido, pero in 1st inversion. Okay, so we try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. So when you make that move, you got to do it pretty quick. So that's something to work on for the left hand, so you can keep that rhythm going there and get it clean. All right, so the next chord is this one, which is diminished chord. Okay, it's like this diminished 7. But we have the 6-string bass, so you play with the bar. Okay, so putting all that together from here. Okay, and then we have the last 2 chords are this one, which is just La in inversion, or A major in inversion, up to B major, up in inversion, right? La, Si. Okay, so that's the first compás, okay? La primera compás es en 12 con acentos en 3, okay? So 12, 3, 6, 9, okay? 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 9 is al final chord 9, 10. So it's like a remate. 9, 10. Okay, so like all together 3 and then we have this one on 12. 12 and 3 and 6 and 9. 9, 10. 9, 10. Okay, and you have a one beat, 11. And you start the next phrase here on E major chord, okay? So we'll go through the next, well, let me show it now with the arpeggio, just so you get the feel for the arpeggio. The arpeggio is going in 3s, so a little syncopated. Okay, so just basically A on my all the way through. Okay, I recommend just work on the chords first. La primera parte con mano izquierda solamente y después en compás con arpeggio, okay? So we'll do the same thing for the next compás. E, and we got, this is basically a F9 chord, F sharp 9, but the bass note is C sharp, okay? So E, F sharp 9 with the bass note, and then again we'll put the arpeggio in later, right? Okay, now this is another diminished chord. Again, I'm here in 7th position, so it's the same. This is diminished chord with the bass note here. Okay. Okay. Now here's the one spot where we have a little melody in the middle by itself, right? Okay, so we need to get that melody, and it's still arpeggiated. So when you play the melody, don't think of it as like a picado or something. It's still arpeggio. Right? So when we get to this last note here, it's under the bar, you're going to change to this chord. So that from the 7th position to 6th. Okay? So okay? It's a little tricky. Okay? And we're going to complete that rhythm. So it's a little it's coming, this is the first kind of syncopated thing that happens. Where we're a little bit ahead of the beat, and then we're gonna fill up the arpeggio with these two notes. Okay, so you grab these together, and then play these two separate. Okay, so okay, now this is pretty easy. It's on the contra beats. That same diminished shape that we had before, bar the 5th fret. And you're just going to do it walking back as contrabeat, contratiempo, like and 8 and 9, okay? Y8, Y9, Y10. Okay, so you have one extra kind of contrabeat to fill up. Okay, if you hit this string, it's not really wrong. This is really still the G sharp chord, you know, even though it's got the flat 9 in the bass. So the diminished chord and this chord are very similar. Okay, so let's go through those chords one more time because we're almost done with the compás, but not quite. So okay, so we're on the end of 10. So after count 10, después del 10, we have this little pickup notes. Okay, and 11 and 12. Now we're on the next compás. Okay, so and 11 and 12. Okay, and that's on the 3rd string and the B string. But again, you're going to do this tirando like arpeggios. Okay, don't think of it as picado. So okay, so going to the next compás, we start in this E inverted chord. It's a pretty common one, but do a full bar because the 2nd chord is this. And this chord looks really fancy or complicated, but it's really just you're going from E to an A7, but with the G in the bass. Okay? And the melody stays here on the 2nd string because we're still playing that Garcia Lorca melody on the B string. So, okay, you can do this maybe with arpeggios this time, but it's this. And then we have F sharp minor 7. and then we have the melody finish. Okay, and if you remember the melody, this is where we stop on this cadential chord that we're trying to build the tension with. Okay, and that's basically the end of the first arpeggio section, or the beginning of the arpeggio section. So let's do that one more time. This time I'll do it. I'll do this the chords, and then I'll do it with the arpeggio, the whole thing. Okay, just so you can have it kind of slow. So the E. This is the second compás. Okay, and I usually use the ring finger for this last. Right. So we'll stop there. We're in the middle of the compás here. We didn't finish the phrase. There's something that comes next. But I just want to get through all the arpeggio part for you real quick with the arpeggio slow. And you can put a golpe here if you want to repeat. It's your choice, or just leave a space. Just to be clear about the timing here, if we counted it, 12 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Okay, so there's all the contrabeats in there. And 11 and 12 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, so we're leading up to count 6. So it's like the medio compás area here. So once I hit this chord, I want to do an upstroke with the pulgar just to keep the compás going. Okay, so that keeps you on track for the next part. So the next part is a diminished arpeggio, and they're walking it up. I'll just show you the notes first, but just so you know, the way the diminished 7, this chord, works is like you can actually just walk up in minor thirds like this. It's a very common way to do it, and Al Di Meola is using that all the time. So maybe Paco saw him doing that and got the idea to do it here. But anyway, we're going to do just kind of a portion of that walking arpeggio. It looks more like a scale when you play it that way. Anyway, so we're going to play 5th fret on the 6th string and pull off. And then we're going to let the open A ring out. Okay, that gives you that little minera dissonance for a second. But then we're going to close it off right away and start doing our walk up. Okay, so this is 3rd fret, 6, 4, 7. Now here we're going to, instead of continue the walk, we're going to do this. Okay, so this is still like that chord, the diminished chord. Okay, so we have 7, 5, and 4 on the 2nd string. Now here we're going to play this note really, but slide up right away from this note, which is 7th fret to the 10th fret. Okay, so again, that phrase. One more time. Okay, so once you got there, you're on the 12, hopefully, right? So we did this and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. Okay, so empezar después de 6, del 6, compás 6 y 7 y 8. So aquí es 8 y 8 en 10. 8 al 10. 8, 10, 11, 12. 8, 10, 12. Okay. Aquí en 12 la melodía del andajaleo. Andajaleo, aleo. Okay, and Paco plays it just like this, like with pulgar. Really pretty simply, just okay, and then he uses this inverted chord. All right, what I'd like to play here is to kind of keep the rhythm going and do an altapua on this. It's like this. Okay, so this is simple version. Alzapua. Okay, and then you have to do the remate there. Okay, so we're hitting that 6, 6, all right, and that's on 10. And then you do the same melody but with chords this time. I like to do just the triad version in chromatic, right? And sometimes I see Paco do this in one version. How's he doing? Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, because he likes to keep the A in the voicing here. But other times he does this voicing where and you keep this one on the flat 9. So it's like, so this chord sounds a little weird. And then you go back to A, G sharp, G natural. Now, when they do the compás on this, you have a couple options, and they change it all the time when they play live. Sometimes there's like a 6/8 kind of. Other times it's just marking a 3/4, like. Right? So you can play around with that and decide which one you like to do. All right, so one more time from this last compás, so you get how it connects. Back to the first phrase. The first phrase is exactly the same as the first time you do it. Okay, so that's exactly the same. But on the second compás, he changes it, and this is it kind of deviates now from the andajaleo. It's no longer really andajaleo. We can think of this as also it's not so much like a 12-beat phrasing as a bulletiest arpeggio and sixes. Is kind of how you can think of it. So here's the position. Okay, so what we're doing here with this chord is a bar on the 9th fret. You have 10 under the bar and 12. Okay, so al 9, 9, 10, 9 y 12. And again, this is AMI arpeggios. You go. So after this slide, 13 to 12, you're going to jump down 3 frets, okay? So now we're in position 6. So we jump from 9 to 6. And we play almost the same thing. It's a little different. So when we do this arpeggio this time, we're not going to do this note the same way because we ended a little early. Right, so so what we do different on the other 2 chords is instead of going back, we go up first, okay? And slide back. And then the last one is in the 3rd position. So we go from 9 to 6 to 3. 9, 6, 3. Okay? And this is the same arpeggio. And you pull off here. And then we have the bar on the 3rd fret. This chord here is just a B flat major, okay? C mayor. And Paco plays this little phrase that I'll show you next. So, but let me just play that one more time in compás. You can see it's in 6s. So it's just the first one starts on 12, 12, sorry, y 6. Okay, so 6 comes in between. Same thing here, except now 12, y 12, okay? Okay? Now, starting here, we have a little melody. Okay, so you probably recognize this from, it's similar to the Bulería tutorial we did before that had this. It's kind of like our pull-offs in the middle, like el tempo and this kind of thing. So it's basically that, except we're in the 3rd fret, right? Okay, and we're in contra beat here, so 6 and 7 and like that. So it's on the contra beat, in other words. So y 6, so 6 and 6, and 6 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and, okay, so it's all in the contra here. And now here's the count 12, so we come right on the 12. Okay, so and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. So if you're only doing this kind of bar, you have to reposition this finger to get to all the way across the 5th fret. Okay, so one more time from here. Okay, and one more time, just to make sure you get the right frets. 4 3 4 3, and this is 6 3. Okay, 4 3 4 3 6 3, and then we have 4 6. And the last note is under the bar here, 3, right? So now we have this interesting, it's pretty simple, but it feels a little weird in the compás. You can do this 3 times. Okay, so this is really like a C9 chord with the F sharp, so the sharp 11. Okay, do it 3 times, and you do it 3 times again, but you can do these little trills. Okay, and that'll keep you square in the compás. Okay, so starting on 12. Okay, and then we have our resolution. Now that sounds a little weird, but it's here. So after this 3rd time, yeah, that's it, sorry. So you're just going to slide up to the 4th position, and we're going to do this, okay, which is a B flat 6, 6, 4 y 5, okay? Okay, and that's B major, right? So the harmony is moving from this chord to like Granaína. So he's transposing from this to Granaína. It's a very interesting move, and that kind of gives it that exotic sound. So this arpeggio one more time. Okay, and that is your 9-10, by the way, in the compás, so we don't have to count all the way through. This is 12, 12, and 3. Okay, and there's your 9-10, 9-10. And we're going to do the same voicing here that was like Granaína, but now we're going to do it in Minera. Okay, so in A and G sharp. Okay, so this time, this is our A major chord, La, going with this note flat. Very Minera style. We have sol in the bass, okay, so G in the bass. Okay, and here again we're leading the beat. So this was 10, so now we have 12, 12, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, okay, and 5, and 6, y 5, y 6. Empezaron 12, 12, y 6, okay? And then again, you can keep that kind of arpeggio pattern going, but now on this chord, which is your typical minera tono. Okay, so this is like sol sostenido con la in the middle. You put sol sostenido in the bass. This is minera chord. Okay. So the way you think of that rhythm is you just keep this arpeggio going 2 times and then change the chord. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and each one of those is a lead in for either 6 or 12. Okay, so if you do it, it depends how many times you do it. So that's why this whole section here. This whole section is really just bulerías. It's not like the soleá phrase anymore. It's got in groups of 6, right? So on the last one, you're going to just do a remate, very much like you do bulerías. And 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you do a whole compás. For nothing, and then you come in with we'll start the falseta. Okay, so that's the whole Garcia Lorca part, and then how it gets into the compás. And now we're going to get into the second part of the piece, which is the falseta that they keep repeating as an estribillo or like a chorus, right? So on the original recording, Paco really keeps this 12 count through the whole song, and with the dry rhythm, the apagado. Siempre en 12 como soleá. But in live, en vivo, con John Mclaughlin, un dúo de John Mclaughlin, or también con el trío, con el Demio. Whenever they did this live, there's always a change of the feel here, where they get off by 3 beats. And I think it's something that Paco he let it happen, because he was more concerned that everybody feels good or feels comfortable. So for whatever reason, I guess they were probably getting lost in where's the head and the tail of the compás. And from here on out, I think that the case is that they feel count 3 and count 9 as the head of the compás. Whereas we know Paco, and when we play this flamenco compás, we think of 6 and 12 as the head of the compás. And then the tail, where we do the remates and the cierre, as 9-10, right? Or something like 3-4, is like the tail end of the compás, or the answer, like respuesta, pregunta y respuesta, that kind of thing. So I think they have it totally cruzado, or reversed in the mind. And that's why in vivo es una falta de tres notas de compás. So fuera compás, completamente fuera compás. Pero in the original recording, grabación original en Paso Ingreso en Fara es perfecto, cuadrado, soleá por bulería en 12. So I recommend trying to keep it that way. I think that adheres to the pure idea Paco had of, using compás, proper compás, flamenco compás, as something as a fusion for the jazz guys to improvise with, right? So it's just something to think about when you watch the live versions, okay? So with the dry rhythm, we have to go a whole cycle, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, okay? So that phrase has to come on 3, and then 6, the 2 chords. So the first chord is like you can think of it as like a power chord, like sol sostenido and fa. And then una escala de bulería or algo, soleá por bulería, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 8, 9, 10, and 8, and a 90 and a 10, sorry, and a 90 and a 10. So 3, 2, la, and then 4, 3, 1, mi, okay? 1, 2, feel that compás kind of like da 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 da. So you feel these two contrabeats, dos contratiempos. Y después el segundo contratiempo, una escala. Okay? So, from here begins the falseta. Okay, so the falseta starts on count 2 of the compás. So the way you want to feel this is you got to feel the count 12. On the recordings, they leave a blank space, and when they play live, so they just feel it. And I think that's part of the reason they get off compasses, because they're feeling this like a pickup to a downbeat, like a and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1, or in 6, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. And the way Paco's doing this, it's pretty tricky. And when I look at the videos live, he tends to not play all the notes, actually. I think he's relying on the other guys picking to fill it in, the sound. So when I look at the right hand that Paco's using, I see like that. So what that is the ring finger and a pull off here on al 7 y 5 on primera cuerda con anular. Then under the bar here is sol con medio y fa, okay, or 6th fret, F, with index. And then this chord, or from here, this is actually like a F7, or if you can think of it as this chord, right, or fa, 7. But he's got this one in there, the 9th. Okay, so it's a dominant 9th. That's what it is. So you can do this, just this voicing: 3 3 5 4 3. Okay, and he does like a pretty heavy accent with the pulgar. Now what I do, you can do two things. What I prefer to bring that melody out, and so you can do picado. It's pretty tricky, actually. I would start with the M finger, right? Or what I did in the beginning of the video, I've been experimenting with the tremolo kind of technique, because I also noticed some versions of this Paco is doing, probably because he's tired or lazy for the speed, to get that speed, and he's saving up the picados for the improvisation and stuff like that. So I'm trying it with this. So you can experiment with this yourself and see what you like the best. Either you do a pull-off, picado, or tremolo. Okay, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Okay, so the next one, that's counts 2 to 3. 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 5 and. Okay, so 5. So that's count 5, right? So it's already syncopated. So the notes are C, B, A, G, A. And again, when they show the close-up of Paco's right hand, I've seen a couple different things here. Sometimes if he's warmed up, he'll do the picado. Right? Other times I only see one finger moving like. So he might be doing a pull-off in the beginning, or even 2 pull-offs. Okay, so that you can get the speed if you're not warmed up. But if you can do it, you do picado. Okay, so the next one, we're just moving up the scale, 10th fret. Okay, and this scale is like Solea scale, right? Just E Phrygian, right? And again, you can do the pull off if you want, or pick it. Now the next phrase is the one where he definitely does a strong picado to get this to come out. Okay, so in the compás here, the second phrase is on count 6. So 6 and a 7, like that. Al 6 a 7. 6, 7. Okay. So this one starts after 7, and a 80 and a 9. Okay, so we're accenting al 9. And you can hit the 6th string there if you want, on 9, al 9. And a 80 and a 9 and 10. And that's that Arabic sounding scale with the D sharp. Okay, so 11th fret. So you have a big stretch here. And you slide back to the 7. Now, once you get that 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, so you need to ground yourself with the compás here on 12. So that's the first run. So let's do that again slow. On 2. So 12, 1, 2E and a 3 and 4 and a 5E and 6E and a 7 and a 8E and a 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and right. Right, and you can do that if you want, like kind of like when you end 12 end. So you keep yourself grounded in compás. Okay, and that should keep you on track for the next part. All right, so again, keep in mind you watch the live versions and they're not in the compás in the same spot here. They start that would have been on 12, so everything's shifted over. But you need to think of that compás that way, okay? So that everything else lines up as you're playing along. Okay, so the next phrase changes key to D Phrygian. So this is a very exotic sound. And here we have that kind of Manuel de Falla kind of sound. So he's basing it on that, por abajo, and re. This is a unique idea because normally we play por medio, but por abajo, it's kind of unique, right? So, but it's a little different than that exact falseta of Manuel de Falla. So let me show you what it is. So he's leading to count 3 there. So 12 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, like that. And you can hit the bass if you want. So we come down the scale, 10, under the bars 8, 11, 10, right? And you pick as many as you can, but there's a pull off here. Okay, so you gotta grab them with the 3 fingers. Then we're gonna do 11, 10 here with the pinky. And when Paco plays this live, he does this very aggressively. Grabs all the strings like churn, churn. So then you come down the scale here, 8, 11, 12. Then you do it again, but this is where you get that Manuel de Falla sound, and you do 8, 12. Okay, so you change it there onto the 12th fret, and then under the bar here's 8. And then you're back to 10. And you can keep the compás going with these little kind of upbeat grabs. Okay? So your accent here is 3. 3. So you need this like to get the 12th beat. And 10 and 11 and 12 and. Okay, so that's how you constantly keep yourself grounded in the compás. And 12 and. Okay, so let me count it out real slow. So this would be like 12 and 1 and 2 and 3, or you can do and 2 and 3 like that if you want. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and. All right. So that's how you want to feel that. One thing to think about with the compás, especially I didn't mention it when we did this, accenting count 9 is a little bit, might be a little tricky, because if you have this kind of compás backing that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have to keep in mind with that accent on 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, because it can throw you off a little bit there, especially this hitting the bass note and everything on 9. If you notice, I used the metronome in 3s in the beginning, and that's, in general, it's going to help you in the beginning. And then when you start playing, if you want to play with a compás backing, like with the looped thing or Dr. Compás, and we have that 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 accent, you're going to have to be aware of how to hit that number 9 in the middle, okay? So en compás de soleá 7, 8, 9, 10 es importante en esa canción pone un sentido del número 9 intermedio de 8 y 10, 7, 8, 9, 10. Muchas veces en esa canción hay melodías o algo que expresan un acento de 9. So you got to keep that in mind the whole time. So this little falseta is nice because it fits a little better with the typical compás. So he's really feeling the 7, 8, 9, 10 right there. All right. Then he goes down here and does a similar phrase, right? Going up to this chord, right? Now he holds a bar here at the 5th position. So al 5. This chord is like re minor, D minor. So we went from a Phrygian to a D minor, and this takes us back to E Phrygian. So it's kind of like, you can think of it as like a Dorian. So the melody is very exotic kind of sounding melody. Same rhythm as this, right? So then we keep the compás going, and from there it's pretty simple. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and right. So the way you want to think of this, walking up that 2nd string, is you're gonna stop here and then you're gonna shift. So after you get back to the B, so the phrasing starts from count 3. 3 and 4 and 5 and then on 6 you shift 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and so you're sliding up here from 8 al 12, right? And then you're gonna reach over with your pinky, get C. This is Do in 13th fret, okay? And then you're gonna come down to Fa, Mi, and that's gonna be on the 3rd string, 10 and 9. Okay, so one more time, this last compasso. Okay, now after you get to count 12, you're gonna want to put on this bass note. Okay, let me make sure that's count 12. Let me see what's going on. That would be 1 then, right? So let me see. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. Alright, so that's 11, sorry. Yeah, I counted it wrong for it. This is like 11, 12. Okay? So that's how you want to do that. Okay? So with this being your is that 12 or 1? I don't know. Let me use the metronome, count it out for you so that you got it exact. Hold on a second. Okay, so I got it counted out here. The 6th string is on 12. So it goes 12, 1. Alright. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to count through it so you got it nice and clean version here. So 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 1. Okay? And then the next picado starts on 2. 2 E and a 3. Okay? So I'm going to play through it all with the metronome a little slow after I complete the falseta here. So there's just one more compás of fast run. This last run is doing these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5-note jabs like we saw in Frevo. And again, this starts on 2, 2E and a 3, accents the third count just like this, 2E and a 3, right? But that's just getting it started, and then we're going to continue up the scale. Now the scale we're using here is D melodic minor. Gets that Manuel de Falla sound here at the end. Okay, so we're going up the scale from 7th fret, B. C sharp, start there for the next one. Start on D the next one. It's F. Then now we switch to harmonic minor, or mi flamenco sound, right? Okay, so that's pretty tricky. I got my thumb way on the bottom here, like that. So it's 12, 13, 16, 17. So the pinky has to do that move, okay, to get that one. And you'll notice that this is 7 notes instead of 5. So that's the other thing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then another 5 to finish. And that's where you're gonna play the bass note. And you can let it ring, but I like to mute it. I get in the habit of doing that to keep it from ringing out too long. Okay, so let me count it out because the compás here is a little bit funky. At the end, we're not landing on the accent like a lot of the other stuff. We're accenting 9, right? El 9 es un acento importante. Porque 7, 8, 9, 10 is happening all the time. So we want to get used to that feeling. So this is not really that different, except that this is like 9 end. So it's even a little, it can throw you off, in other words, of your inner clock. So let me count it out again. 2E and a 3 and a 4E and 5E and a 6, 7E and a 8 and a 7E and a 8, right? So that last phrase with the 7 is and a 7E and a 8 and a 9E end. So by ending on the and of 9 instead of on 9 or on 10, it's in the middle. So keep that in mind depending on which kind of compás you're using. If you're using a metronome, it's the 9 end. If you're using 7, 8, 9, 10, it's a tak, tak, tak. It's ending before the 10. Tak, tak, tak. So you're ending in the middle, okay? So keep that in mind when you do this. And then I'm going to do a take of it just with the slow metronome here. This is 100. So that you have at least kind of a clean take of at a slow tempo so that you can work from. You can slow down the video even more if you need to. Okay, so we'll start from the arpeggios in the beginning and I'll go all the way up to this end of this falseta here. Siete, ocho, nueve, 10, 1, 2. see how that connects to kind of a dangerous pause. Be real careful when you come out on the 12. Cuidado con el compás. So, okay, so hopefully that'll help you get through all that beginning part. And then before we talk about the improvisational part, we'll do that at the end of the video here is the last thing. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of different versions of the harmony parts that they play. And on the original recording, like I said before, there's a lot of overdubbing of Paco. Paco likes to put other parts in there. And it's hard for me to hear for sure if it's Mclaughlin because it's a nylon string, or did Paco just overdub another part, you know? And the only thing you can really definitively tell is when Dimiola's doing something because it's a steel string sound. But the harmonies are really interesting in this, at least on the original studio version. Most of the live videos I see of Mclaughlin playing this with Paco, Mclaughlin isn't doing a whole lot of interesting things. In the beginning on the Andajaleo part, he does some chords up here in some videos. Sometimes he's down here. Like he's got his chords, voicings all over the place. So, and he's not really doing an arpeggio. He's just like strumming chords along with Paco. So that's something you can work out by going by the basic chord names that Paco's doing here if you want to work something out. You could even start with just doing the upper voicing. Like this kind of thing. That's just like the upper part of the chord. I mean, that's a place to start. But there is a very high voice on the recording. It sounds really nice doing this arpeggio. So let me just show you that because I think that would make a nice guitar part, even if it's not something they were doing live or they abandoned or that Paco overdubbed or whatever. I just think it sounds nice to have that upper high harmony. So something I worked out that goes with that is just like this kind of thing. Coming down the scale. This is your F sharp chord. This is diminished, right? And that would be like that first phrase. And this is just mimicking the inner voice, right? Or an octave above the inner voice. Right? And you do it again, but this time you repeat the top note. Because these chords don't have that movement, right? And then he comes down this scale, if you remember, in the main part. So you can do a third above it, like this kind of thing. Just a little melody there to go with this part. And when this comes in, since you're down here, you can do something real simple like that will harmonize with it nicely. So again, that last part. Okay, and then from there you can double the diminished arpeggio. Or maybe instead of doing the same note as Paco's part, which is a fourth below, right? Or you can harmonize. I did hear some thirds on the recording, but they don't do this live. But the thirds sound nice if you do this kind of thing. Okay, and what I'm doing there is that same diminished, but instead of starting on this note, I'm starting on the next note in this pattern, so it harmonizes a third above. So like, and then here drop back, and of course Mclaughlin does these power chord sounding thing on the bottom, right? And back to this. Now, when Paco does this chord, this is an interesting chord, but really what this is, if you just look at the natural voicing of it, it's basically this kind of chord, which would be like a B flamenco chord, right? Or taranta kind of sounding chord. And then he just drops it down a third, right? So those are the harmonies, so minor thirds down. So B, G sharp, F. But the thing about it is, like you hear on the recording very clear, they're doing an augmented major 7 above it. And so this note here is not in Paco's arpeggio. it's this one they're doing in the upper voice. So you can call this like a augmented chord if you want. Major 7. You can either strum it like this with the bass note down in minor thirds, resolving on B flat major, or you can do an arpeggio, something like this, and then slide down. And then to finish it off, you just kind of do these chords along the same chords that Paco was doing arpeggios on. So the C7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2. Right, so that little goes along with the arpeggio. So those are just kind of my ideas of what to do with it based on some of the things I pick out from the recording and also from some of the live footage I've seen. But I basically put it together as my own like second part that can go with this thing. So let me play through it once just so that you have how it would fit in the compás, and then you can do whatever you want with it from there. Okay. Okay. Now for the falseta, the harmony parts, again, there's some really interesting harmonies on the recording, but live, most of the versions, they're doubling in unison a lot of the things Paco are doing, the things I showed already. The exception, I guess, would be when Al Di Meola was playing, when they did the live version. Al Di Meola was still doing some of the harmonies underneath or in the lower voicing. And Mclaughlin, you know, kind of was like all over the place with it. Like he'll do whatever he wants. He'll either match Paco or he might do an octave below Paco. So I think Al Di Meola's addition to the piece really expanded this falseta to make it sound really interesting harmonically, because sometimes Al Di Meola is doing harmonies that are not diatonic. Diatonic means it's in the same scale. So he would do oftentimes a symmetrical kind of harmony, like a fifth below or a fourth below, which I think gives an interesting sound. So let me just show you some of those harmony parts. So the first one was harmonizing that scale. Again, Mclaughlin typically did with him, but on the recording, Mclaughlin did like a third above, so that would be this. Okay, with that melody, starting on D and playing the B twice here. Then he would go up the scale, and then one more. But then instead of doing a further harmony, he just doubles Paco's part here. Okay, and then what Al Di Meola was doing is an octave down on Paco's part, so that would be like, and then just continuing an octave below, up the scale. But then here he jumps down, which would be like a fifth and an octave below Paco's part, and does this. Okay. And I think that sounds really cool because it makes the harmony have that kind of sound when it's done together, right? So, or you double that G. Okay, so that would be like Demiola's part and Mclaughlin again up here. Right? You put all that together and you get that really wicked harmony that they've got going on. Another thing I might do is if you're doing flamenco and you want to do the lower voicing, instead of just hitting that note, you can hit the chord that Paco hits, which is this F7 chord down here, maybe. Like that. Right. Another thing you do is an octave below. That kind of thing. Right, so, and sometimes they change it up a little. So that last run in the falseta, Paco typically plays it up in that high octave like that. But on the original recording, he plays it in 2 octaves down. He does this. But he only does it the first time. So you can see how it's kind of like all over the place with how you want to think about harmonizing this falseta, because the falseta itself is not changing. They're treating it kind of like a chorus, like a repetitive theme. That's why I call it estribillo. So that's that part. So then when they do this, usually Mclaughlin just doubles that with him, and then Demio sticks to this kind of interesting harmony down the bottom. It sounds like it's just fifths below, but it's actually a little bit like let's just call it a counter voice. Okay, so coming on the D. Okay, so that's G, Fa, Mi bemol, or E flat, D. Okay, same kind of phrase you can do like a pull off, and that's that little with this part, right? And then we'll continue down the scale. This is where it's a little different than Paco's part. So you start with the E flat here, going to D. And then you go to open E. So that kind of gives that fourth below that note there. So. And then you end with C to D. Okay? One more time. There to keep it in compás. And remember, that kind of stuff, Demio is playing with a pick, so he's not playing a chord there. He's just doing this and like that kind of thing. And it stands out pretty strongly on the recording. You know, sometimes I think live, I've heard Mclaughlin do that same phrase, but way up here in the high octave. That kind of thing. So the same exact thing up an octave. The next part was this. Now this is interesting because the thing that Demiola does, and I think he was doing this live too, it sounds really cool. Right? That thing sounds really cool as a lower voice. And again, it's a symmetrical pattern, so he's playing a fifth below, a fifth and an octave below, right? So again, you're basically matching this just down a fifth and an octave. So now he slides up on that D string. You hear it sliding way up. Now you can keep that C in octaves here. So the C kind of matches, is a harmony for this, but it becomes the octave when the other guys come down. So you have an octave to finish it off, right? So, and sometimes he changes it a little, like doing like that kind of thing with the G sharp, or he might do, which would be a B natural, which is a little bit of a clash, right, against the C, but it's a really interesting counter melody, let's call it, to the main melody. And then the fast run at the very end, again, you can hear a lot of unison, but McLaughlin will do the octave below on the live recordings, and I think that's what Al Di Meola is doing too, an octave below. And you can choose how you want to finger that. They may play it like this, right? Maybe that kind of thing. But anyway, I would just do it the same way Paco's doing it, but down on the same lower strings. And there is a thirds harmony that's in there, and I think it's McLaughlin doing it on the recording. I suspect it is, but it's definitely a nylon string guitar. But I can't tell why he wouldn't use this live, because it sounds really cool as a third below, you know, that same scale. So this would be a diatonic harmony to... Sorry, I mean diatonic harmony versus like a symmetrical fifths or whatever that they would do. So diatonic to the scale means we're doing the same melodic minor scale, but third lower. So Paco starts on B, and so what I'm hearing on the recording is starting on G. And again, I don't understand why they didn't use this live, because it sounds really cool, I think, on the recording to do that and have an octave below as well. So you're starting from G, you go to A, 5th fret. So you got C sharp in that one, and then here we're kind of catching up with what Paco was started with, and then we're still thirds underneath. So okay, going up to the F, that's the 7-note phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, is how you would think it would end, except he actually does something a little different. It's hard to hear exactly, but I think it's this, like that kind of thing, right? Okay, so the way I'm doing is starting from D this time to C sharp. I'm still hearing the C sharp in there, but then B, A, B. Okay, we'll get that little fourth in there, right? So again, the whole phrase. I'm sorry. Right? So the only variation I heard of that, like I said, Paco does this. He does that the very first time, and I'm not sure why he chose to do that differently each time. Maybe he just wanted to make it sound like there were different arrangements for this falseta on each pass, because between the improvisations, I think they play that falseta 3 times or 4 times, and so it sounds a little different each time by changing the voicings a little bit, right? So the first time he does that down an octave, and then the other times he's up here. So when Paco does that first time, it's Di Meola that's doing, and you can hear that steel string sound again. And then, oh yeah, there's one, the very last time they do this falseta on the recording, on the album version, Mclaughlin does this. Instead of doubling Paco's part up here like he normally does, and I think he fingers it up here like this. Yeah, something like that. What he does is a nice harmony. I like this one a lot. It's basically an octave below, but this time he only goes up to E with it, so it makes a nice harmony. And then he comes down here, D, C, B, and it sounds really nice. That last, if you pay attention to it, the last time they do the falseta is a little different because of that voicing. And that's it for the falseta. So now we're going to talk about the well, actually, let me play this little part, because it's a little different than what I did, and I think if you hear it with the metronome, it'll make more sense that you hear that kind of variation of that melody. So 12. So maybe that'll help you out with that, just because it's a little bit different. All right. So now we're going to talk about the compás section. And the first thing I want to say about it is that, again, when Paco overdubbed his guitar, it's because he didn't want to make them have to learn how to do rasgueados and all that stuff. But he's definitely thinking of it in the flamenco compás concept, right? So, and his improvisations are fitting that as well. What ended up happening live is that, like I said before, the concept of the head and the tail shifted. So, en el mente de Paco, el compás, la cabeza es empezar en 12, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then here is the cola. La cola is the remate or cierre. 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, right? So that's the final or the ending of the compás. But what's happening in the mind of Mclaughlin and Demio, I think, is that they're thinking of this as like a pickup to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they carry that feeling through the whole piece and when they improvise and everything. And mathematically, it works just fine. So that's why, you can't really tell anything different about that. But it might affect the way you think about it as the player, when you're learning how to improvise or play along with this thing. So it's something to keep in mind. I think it's important, if you haven't studied already alegrías or something simple like that, that you get a handle on that first, because that's the basis of how Paco's constructed this improvisation section. So if you don't know already, alegrías is a good place to start. E and B7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? And then when you do the falseta for that, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So that kind of concept is coming in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Okay? So if you don't already have that, it's going to be a little bit tricky or confusing. But that's where you want to think of this thing. And if you got that, then the right hand's pretty easy. So the chords, all you got to get is the chords, right? So this is E with the major ninth in the voicing. I like to just put the bar down here so that you get the full sound. But you can do open as well. And then on count 10, you go to A minor or A minor 7. Now, I was using in the beginning of the video this chord because that's the one Mclaughlin uses. I think that sounds really cool and simple thing to do. Gives your left hand a big break, right? So the next chord is really tricky. This is an F chord, Fa, pero dominante, right? So dominant 7. But Paco's getting in there the B natural, right? So you have to bar to get that. And then it's okay to have both of these notes in the voicing. Okay, so F dominant, the bar. And then this chord is a really weird chord. I'm not sure what he's thinking here, but it's basically A minor, just a regular triad, but with the F in it, right? So if you think of A minor and put the F in it, right? So it's not a very interesting harmony to go from the F to that. It's like nothing really changed except that you did a flat 7 and went to the major 7. It almost sounds like that. But then he goes to D minor 7, and again, not a lot has changed with the chord. If you play these two chords, you don't hear a whole lot of movement there. And it's actually okay because when you're doing improvisation, it's la misma escala para los dos tonos. Los dos tonos tienen la misma escala, so no es problema. Pero here we're thinking of the next compás. D minor is resolving to E. Now normally this is like the Phrygian or the soleá remate. Pero with D minor. But he's doing major 7. So let's get that jazz. To him, it's very jazzy, I guess. That sound. And that gets us into the other key we started with, which is E, more like alegría. And then he finishes with this, which is almost like a little falseta. Okay, so this is how you want to treat this thing. I'll show it to you real slow. 3. So starting on 3, 12. 1, 2, 3. On 3, we're just come down the scale. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And this is just open chord with the B triad held, right? Right? And then you're going to go to A, the same voicing, just move down a whole step. And in the videos I've seen, he does the little scale. You can barely hear this, but he's doing like from the 8, right? 8 and 9 and 10, right? So again, from 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Okay? So one more time. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11, 12, right? So what I like to do on that, because you can't really, and they even playing these little scales can sometimes interfere a little with the soloist, but you know, Paco likes to do it. He's thinking of it like minera, una falseta de minera, right? Pero en compás de soleá, so I like to do the rasgueado to complete it, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you start over again. 1, 2, 3, 5. Now, one change I do is this chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? I like this chord, but it's very easy to do with the re abierto, no? So I like that better because it gives your left hand a little break as well. But it's your choice. You can do like the bar chord version as well. And then the ending. Now, Mclaughlin and Demio. Let's just talk about Mclaughlin because I got video of him doing this pretty clear. He likes a couple different voicings for this. And again, he's starting on count 3. He's not starting on 12 as the primera nota. Para él, primera nota es 3 y 9. 3 y 9. Y 12 y 6 un secundario tiempo or algo. So, E major, 7. He was doing like a 6/8, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this chord he does like, I've seen him do this one and also this. So those kind of things Mclaughlin's gonna do. This is like a 13 chord and this is like a dominant chord with the B string over, right? So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And then here's the, this is C, y La, y Sol sostenido. Pero in the inversion that Paco's doing, I guess in his mind, this is that chord. Right, so this voicing La, y Sol. Okay, so, and again, his downbeat is this one. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here. Right? So their downbeat is shifted, right? Cruzado. Compás un poquito cruzado. So probably they think this thing Paco's doing is super local or algo, no sé. But Anyway, it's important to get kind of both of those feelings down with the metronome, and using the metronome in 9 or accenting 9 instead of 10, for example, might help. But now when we come to improvising over the structure, it's not as complicated as it sounds. The hard part really is just the compás, just to stick with that compás. And if you work with the metronome in 3s as a waltzy kind of thing, like Mclaughlin is doing, it's a little easier, right? But then if you want to get good like Paco with his way of phrasing, which is like soleá, but very rápido, then you have to think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's muy difícil. So I recommend that you, before you just try improvising on it like it's a rumba, to make some falsetas, okay, of your own. Just make your own falsetas that use the scalas that work with the scales, okay? And you can really think one compás at a time about it. And I made a falseta in the beginning that I'll show you. But let me show you the scales first, and then I'll show you the falseta, and that'll be the end of this video. I'm sorry, I like to talk a lot. So, in primera parte, pone tus cosas, tus falsetas en compás, pero con escalas para los tonos, ¿ok? So, la primera escala, mi mayor. Por ejemplo, en triples, like 1, 2, 3, ¿ok? Pero, like escobilla, pero después del mi es la menor, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, mi menor, ¿sí? Como escobilla, okay? The second compás, segundo compás, is ese tono. This chord in jazz is the Lydian dominant. What you want for Lydian dominant is C melodic minor, Do melodic minor, menor. Right? Okay? Pero with the phrasing, again, like escobilla. Okay? So, right? And then you can end on this, which isn't really much of a resolution, but you're getting rid of the mi bemol, okay? The E flat note changes to mi normal, okay? So, como escobilla. Y escala melodic minor. The last one, re menor, again like soleá. And I'm literally just thinking like that's how I'm thinking of the phrasing. The frase is como escobilla. So y al final es minera. So then you're gonna go to, right? Or you can think fancy scales like soleá, this kind of thing. When you get good with picados, it's no problem to put these in. No como soleá or fandango or algo. So, in the beginning, think like your falsettos is simple, like escobillas, you know, like, and those are the scalas. Mi major, final de la menor, pero do melodic minor or fa Lydian dominant, it's called. Then normal menor, la menor. Re menor es la misma de la menor, or soleá. Right? And then back to mi mayor y minera. Minera, a escala de minera. Okay? That's it. So the falseta I do in the beginning, I'll play it for you real slow. I'm doing like major 7 chord, and then up the escala mi mayor, and then I resolve it there to A minor. This is arpeggio, la menor. Just drag the index finger like arrastre. Melodic minor, this is Mclaughlin pattern, dos, un, dos. this is muy normal de John Mclaughlin, right? But I stop here, okay, on the C. So, un, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. Stop here. 12, right? Next scale is like, again, re menor, pero en tono de soleá. So I stop on the B, that's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I finish with this. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you're back to E minor. And para el final, en minera, alza púa. Right? And then la. Como alza púa. You know, muy flamenco. So. Okay? And that's it. That's what you want to do with this piece. So it's very advanced, but I think if you treat it like that improv part, like it's a basic Escovilla kind of thing, like beginner level alegrías, I think you can get a handle on it and then gradually start getting fancier stuff put in there. Okay, and then the way I'm ending the piece is just you don't complete the scale at the end of the falseta. You stop there on mi, and instead of this, the ending, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so fa, mi. That's pretty close to what Paco does to end it live, anyway. So, hope you got something out of this and get a little bit of insight. Again, you know, I know a lot of people don't like guitar trio, but I think in this case, we get a good idea of where Paco's coming from for the modern flamenco. You know, right after this comes Sirocco, Ziria, Lucía, and all this stuff. And I think it was a big part of the inspiration for that was the guitar trio thing that he was doing, and this kind of piece in particular was a good bridge between the traditional flamenco and the modern stuff, you know, starting with the Garcia Lorca, very old school flamenco idea, going to something very unique. And so hope you got some out of it, and we'll see you next time.